Okay, hello everyone. I think we're live now. So it's good to see you here. We're just doing a few last minute things to make sure that we can, it's all working. So if you can hear me, type, yep, I can hear you in chat, then I'll know, that'd be good. And we'll kick off in a minute or two. Also, if you would like to get online to ask me a question, I'm going to pop a link in the chat. So if you go to that link, you'll get into the Google Hangouts and you'll be able to ask a question. So okay, so the link, you should be seeing the link to join me on Google Hangouts. If you want to ask a question, that's the best way to do it because we can actually have a dialogue and actually get to a kind of real answer rather than a generic one. So I invite you to do that. Let's kick off. I'm Susan Jones from Ready Set Startup. Thanks for joining me today for our very first startup Q&A. I'm very excited to talk to you all. And I know that there's people from all around the world listening. So pop in the chat box where you're from. I'm really interested to see. I know we've got some from Australia, some from the US. I think there's even one or two very dedicated people from the UK, Saudi Arabia, India. Okay, well, let's kick it off. So really, I didn't want to just sit here and talk at you today. I wanted to be able to ask you to answer some questions. So while you're thinking about what you might want to ask or discuss, a couple of things that I want to say. Welcome, Kristen from Melbourne. Okay, first I have to introduce Rob, who's a very important part of the team at Ready Set Startup. You won't see him, but he's doing all the technology behind making this happen today. So thank you, Rob. And if there's anything not working for you, if you can't hear anything, if you can't see your screen, you can type something into the chat and he can help you out with that. Okay. Now, I know Kristen had a question. I think, did you want to hop on the Google Hangouts link, Kristen? And we can kick off with your question. Okay, so before we start with the questions, just wanted to give you two minutes about me. So some of you know me from Ready Set Startup, which is a website that I founded about 4 years ago. And the reason that I started Ready Set Startup was when I was starting businesses, there seemed to be a lot of information around if you already had a business running, and there used to be a lot of people giving information for, how you can increase your customers. And I used to think, well, what if I don't have any? How do I actually start? How do I get something off the ground? So that's what I'm really interested in. That's what Ready Set Startup's about. And I know most of the questions you've got for me today are to do around with that area, so that's fantastic. I've started a number of businesses myself, and also together with Rob, who also happens to be my husband and life partner, as well as my partner here at Ready Set Startup. And some of them have been okay, and some of them have not been good at all. So I've learned from those experiences. And then some time ago, I went and did a master's in entrepreneurship because I really wanted to have a very broad understanding of the field, and I wanted to be able to use the best knowledge that was out there to make good decisions in my business. And then so that led on to lecturing in entrepreneurship. So I've been doing that for about 6 years now, as well as working in my own businesses and running Ready Set Startup. So that's me. And what we might do is kick off with one of the questions that was sent in by Tricia by email. And her question was, what is my strategy to have a constant presence on Twitter? So she was saying she uses Twuffer to schedule tweets because she works full-time, which is a great idea. But is there other suggestions? And yeah, I've got 2 secret weapons for Twitter. One is Buffer, which probably quite a few of you know about. So Buffer's an app that you basically install, and it works in your browsers, it works in Facebook, and it works in Twitter. So whenever you find anything interesting, you can add it to your Buffer, which is like a list of tweets or Facebook posts that you have ready to send out. So I use Buffer a lot for when I find anything interesting that I think you guys would like to listen to or read. I put it on Buffer, and so that automatically goes out during the day. And then I also use a plugin for WordPress called Tweet Old Post. And what that does is it randomly selects old posts and retweets them. And that's actually a great way for people who've newly joined me on Twitter to discover the old content there, which is still relevant and has information for them. When I find anything interesting that I think you guys would like to listen to. Kristen, you're going to need to turn off your sound. Yeah, done. Okay. Okay, so yeah, Buffer and Tweet or Post, and then obviously getting on there in person to when I respond to people, it's really me, and I like to have the interaction because I think Twitter is great for that. So that's how I do Twitter. Okay, I'm going to bring Kristen onto the call, who's brave enough to go first. Well done, Kristen. Your mic's unmuted. So ask away, Kristen. Welcome. Thanks for being the brave first one. Okay, it doesn't sound like she's there yet, so try that again in a minute. This feels like doing radio. If you would like to hop on the call and ask a question, I've just posted the link again. So just go and click that link. It'll take you into Google Hangouts and you'll be able to ask a question live. Kristen, are you there? Okay, we are not hearing you there. Okay, don't know what's happening there. There she is.
Hi, sorry.
Hi, Kristen.
Problems. Hi.
That's all right. I'm good. Thank you for being the brave first person to join us today for questions. Yeah, I sincerely mean that. It's like I was just going to listen. I didn't think I was going to be on camera. So well done.
Would you like me to ask my question now? Or?
Go for it.
Okay. So my question is, like, I've done all the reading around validating your idea, and I've done the work, but it feels like I'm only ever about 80% sure that my product is viable, and there's only so much you can do before you start building your product. So I was wondering if other entrepreneurs and founders get to the point where they feel 100% certain, or if you're only ever operating at 80% certain or 70% certain that your product's a good one.
Yeah, very good question. And I would say you never ever feel 100% certain. Like if you feel 100% certain, you're probably arrogant and wrong. So don't feel bad if you don't feel 100% certain, because I don't think that ever happens. So yeah, certainly 100%. It's not going to happen. But when you say you've done the work, what have you done to validate your idea?
So I've researched the broader market. So I guess it would be like more traditional marketing strategy, research type stuff. I've also gone out and spoken to people who'd be purchasing the product and also using the product. And
Fantastic.
then I've done a few like very basic, so it'd be pencil and paper type wireframes, and gone out and said this is what I'm proposing. So that's how I've validated so far. But I'm happy to take any feedback or advice on how to improve that.
So that sounds fantastic. It sounds like you've actually done some really good work with that opportunity evaluation. And when you've done that, what's the response that you've had from people? Have you had anyone going, yes, when is this going to be available? Or this sounds really good?
No, but I've had, yeah, exactly. So I haven't had jumping up and down, this is amazing. I've had probably the next stop back. So this sounds pretty good. We'd be pretty interested. I'm not sure how to interpret, like, whether it's being polite. That's, as Australians tend to be a bit polite, but not, or if it is genuinely, it's a good idea. Like, there's a bit of hesitation around, jumping in with sort of that. It's definitely not jumping up, and they're not jumping up and down saying this is a great idea.
Okay, so for me that would be a little bit of a, I was going to say a red flag, not exactly a red flag, but I would want to make sure that I had people that I knew were going to make money. I was talking about, who was I listening to the other day? Someone, Jeff Walker it was talking about hope marketing, and you don't want to do hope marketing. So because if you're spending a lot of time and money putting something into the market and you're hoping it's going to work and then it doesn't, it puts you obviously in a really difficult position often. So what I would be looking to do if I were you is to design a test, so another test in the market where you would be confident once completed that people are going to buy. So it might be, actually, and the other question that I had, Kirsten, was what industry are you in? Do you mind sharing that?
Like as a profession?
No, for the business.
Oh, for the business. It's low-level enterprise type software. So I'm aiming for a local government type, small enterprise, that sort of level.
Okay. And that sort of explains somewhat the response you're getting, because in those kind of areas of business, people don't want to make decisions that might be wrong, that make them look bad in their job. Do you know what I'm saying? So, like, if you're talking to someone and they're considering your product, and they're going to cover their butt, because if they make a commitment and then it doesn't work out, then they look bad and it reflects on their career, and, you know, all that crap that goes around in those kind of jobs. So probably what you're meeting is a bit of that. I'm going to cover my ass because I don't want to get myself in trouble here, and that those kind of areas can be hard to sell into because of that. So I guess for you, it's finding a way to, like you're saying, to sort of get past that resistance, that natural resistance they're going to have. And often in, like, local government and big business, that sales process can take quite a long time as well. Yeah. So I guess the question that I would be asking myself is there a test that I can design that will show me with more certainty whether they're going to buy or not? So it sounds like you're not talking to friends, which is really good. Sounds like you're talking to people you don't know.
Yeah, it's just one step away from friends. I've moved.
Yeah, and that's perfect. You know, using your network to get those connections. So that's what you want to do. So what, you know, different ways to do that could be asking for pre-orders, or asking for a memorandum of understanding, or it might be having a meeting with their boss as well, like, you know, taking it up a level. So you, because if you're talking to people that are not decision makers, you're not going to get a decision. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. What does a memorandum of understanding really imply? Is there any?
Good question, and sorry for the jargon. So it just is a document that says that you agree to do something together, so that they agree to buy the software when it's ready, or sorry, I'm assuming it's software and it may not be at all.
Yeah, it is.
Or that. Yeah, so does that make sense? Sorry, I just got lost in my own explanation there. So yeah, it's I'm agreeing to do something together. Yeah, if you can get like a deposit on a sale, that's kind of even better. If you can get sort of some kind of commitment from someone that has the ability to make decisions, that's probably the, you know, I think getting pre-sales in that industry is going to be difficult, but if you can get a sort of some enthusiasm from the decision makers, you know, if you can kind of use the contacts you have to find out who it is you should be talking to if they're not the person, and get some commitment from them, I think that would be helpful. And then if you're feeling that you've got some positive feedback from them, then that's when I would kind of feel like, okay, I've got the green light to develop my first version of the product. I feel like, you know, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. Thanks. Thank you.
That's all right. And the other thing that I would add is it's also a little bit about the risk you're going to take. So if it's going to cost you your life savings and your house to develop this, then you want to be pretty bloody sure that you're going to have sales, right? Yeah. Whereas, you know, if it's going to take you, you know, $10,000 or some money that you can afford to lose, then that's a different, you know, you need a different level of certainty for that scenario.
Yep. That makes sense too. You've raised some good things to think about over the next few days.
Excellent. Right, thank you for coming on.
Thank you. That was only slightly daunting, so thanks for that.
Well done. And being an entrepreneur is all about getting out of your comfort zone, so well done you. Okay, well, you're off the hook, Kirsten.
Thanks.
Okay, next up we've got Peter. Might need Rob to unmute Peter actually. There you are, Peter. Are you there? Okay, looks like he might have stepped away from his computer, so we'll move on to Yusuf. Rob, if you can unmute Yusuf.
Hi Susan, how are you today?
I'm great, how are you? Who am I talking to? Peter. Excellent. Okay. Now we've kind of got you just out of frame of the camera, Peter, so but you can just talk if you don't want to be on camera. What's your question? Peter.
Susan, can you hear me?
You're very soft.
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. No, we're not hearing. You're very soft, Peter. You might need to adjust your microphone settings.
About 5 minutes ago.
Okay. Well, fire away. Let's see how we go.
Okay. Can you see me now?
Yep. Beautiful. Welcome.
Okay, I'll just phrase my question because there's a time delay between when I speak and when I can hear you. Okay, my question really is that I've started the startup and we have an idea. In fact, I've started 2 startups, and we would like, and my question really is the biggest hurdle for us is to how do we find early startup investment? Because I've been told that if we want to raise $60,000, that's not attractive for an investor, but we don't think that we need 500,000. So how do we approach the problem of finding a suitable investor to help us with seed funding to just get our minimum viable product off the ground?
Okay, good question, and that's one that a lot of people have. So if I recap and you tell me if I've got this right, so you're looking for $60,000 to get your first version of your product out the ground, and you want to find an investor for that. Okay, there is quite a time lag there. Yeah, okay. So anyway, I'll start off with my thoughts there. And that is, there's a couple of things. And so what I'm going to say is very general because I don't know what your product is. I don't know what industry you're in. I don't know your personal situation. So there's a lot of factors that would play into this. First thing I would say is I would ask why you're looking for an investor. $60,000, you know, it's a decent chunk of money, but it's not. It's a small amount for an investor. So I would be looking for every way. If I were you, I'd be looking for every way I could do this without bringing an investor on board. And the reason for that is it's a lot to do with the dynamics of how venture capital works. So If you are a venture capitalist, what you're looking for is a return on your money, and you're looking for a big return on your money, right? So you're wanting to invest in businesses that are going to be very successful and grow very rapidly and get you a very big return. And unless your business fits into that profile, and only a few do, they're not going to be interested. So one, it's really hard to get VC investor funding of any kind, whether it's seed or angel investment or VC investment. Number two, it will take you a long time. So if you're looking for an investor, it could take 12 months or more, and that's a lot of time that you could be spending developing your product. So you've got to weigh up the pros and cons with spending that time on finding an investor versus spending that time finding customers. So I would be reassessing that. Like, do you really need an investor? Is there ways that you can get the money without an investor? Other than that, you've got to look at whether your business fits into that investment frame. You know, are you a high growth tech business? So you need to answer that question. You need to kind of think about, is there any way you can get money in the door to start off with without having that investment? So can you do a very basic version of the product that then you can start to sell, which will then, you know, bring in revenue that you can grow and essentially bootstrap your business. Does that clarify things a bit? I feel like I'm going to stop talking because I'm feeling like I'm not necessarily answering your question. Okay, so Peter's telling me he's a high growth tech business. So the other options that you would have then is to look at getting into an accelerator. So depending on where you are in the world, there's different options for that. So that could be a possibility. Another possibility would be to bootstrap by offering services. So, you know, can you do some consulting on the side to get the money?
I'm going to try and answer you, but because of the incredible time lag, I'm not sure if you're going to get the question. But
Okay, we're having problems there. Right, what we might do is just move on. I'm sorry, Peter. I'm not sure if you're listening to me through Google Hangouts or through the page on Ready Set Startup, but if you're listening to me through Google Hangouts, you won't have the time lag, I think. So that might help if you want to jump back on later. Okay, let's move on. So I'm going to bring Yusuf. Is been waiting patiently on the line. So we'll just unmute you. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Yusuf. Okay, can you hear me? Let's see. Sorry, guys. Bear with us while we get the tech working here. All right, don't know what's happened to Yusuf. Let's go with, I think it's Ghislaine. Ghislaine, you're unmuted. How do I say your name, first of all? Okay. So Ghislaine? Okay. Don't know what's happening here. You know what we say about technology, it's good when it works. Right, so if anyone else has a question, feel free to jump on or type it in the chat. Okay, I actually can see some good questions here. So while I'm waiting for Ghislaine or Yusuf or someone to unmute their microphone and talk to me, I might take one of these. Okay, someone's asking me, is there any indication of which business models lend themselves to bootstrapping and which ones don't? Yes, that's fairly clear. I tend to think actually most things can be bootstrapped. You just have to find the way to do it. But there's certain industries and certain things that you can't bootstrap. So obviously mining, airlines, railways, anything that requires a lot of infrastructure to work is not a good candidate for bootstrapping. So some hardware type startups will need upfront funding and can't be bootstrapped. But the good news is that most businesses can. So it's definitely an option I would recommend looking at first. Definitely look at how can you bootstrap first before you even think about funding, because why give away part of your business if you don't need to do that? Okay, another question here is how much market research should someone do before you know enough to progress a business idea? A little bit like we were talking with Kirsten, you need to be really confident that your idea is going to make money. You don't want to launch hoping that it's going to be successful. You want to be really confident. So you need to do however much market research it takes. And as I said to Kirsten, that's a little bit dependent on the risk. So if you're not spending a lot of money, if you're selling clothes on eBay, for instance, and you only have to outlay $1,000 to do that, you probably don't need to do market research. But if you are doing something that requires a big investment of time and capital, do your market research, because one, you'll have confidence that it's going to work, and two, you'll find out ways to make the idea even better and more profitable. So it's really worth spending the time, and it's not a lot of time to spend to make sure that you have a really good foundation for starting your business. Okay, here we got Ghislaine. Are you with us? Okay, we can't hear you. Right, you might need to check your microphone settings. That's not working. Let's go back to Yusuf. Did you want to ask a question? You're unmuted, so you can speak. Right. All right, let me go back to the questions in chat. So you can either jump onto the Google Hangouts or type a question in chat. Either way is fine. Okay. Someone's asking me, what should one's startup priorities be? Market research, product development, or marketing when it comes to budget allocation? probably I would say in that order. So market research first, make sure that you've got a good product that's profitable, that's going to work, that you've done your market research, you've talked to potential customers, you've validated the idea, right? That's really important first step. It's the foundation of your business. Product development to a point. So develop your product, and again, it depends, you know, I'm answering this generally because I don't know what business your particular business is. So if you want to jump online and talk about it in more detail, you're welcome to click the link and do that. So yeah, product development in general, the recommendation is that you develop to a point that you can sell. If it's perfect, you've done too much validation, generally. Unless it's an enterprise product, they need to be pretty well developed before you sell them, because you only have one chance with a big corporation. Or, you know, if it's in the health field or something where it's really important that it's right, obviously you need to do a lot more product development. Marketing, if you're a startup, you should be doing guerrilla marketing. You should not be spending huge amounts on your marketing budget. What you should be doing is spending enough to validate the idea and get it out there. And once you know you've got something that people are buying, then ramp up your marketing spending. So that's what my recommendation would be. So someone sent me a question saying people were saying they should spend $100,000 on marketing in the first year. Those people are used to working with big corporations and they have no idea about startups, so you need to find new marketing advisors. I don't know any startup that is not, you know, that's pre-revenue, that, you know, unless you're VC funded, where they just chuck around stupid amounts of money anyway. But startups don't have that kind of money for marketing. So your marketing should be low cost or no cost until you've validated the idea and you've got sales and you know it's working, and then ramp it up. Okay. Let's go back to Ghislaine. Let's see if we can get you on the line again. Okay, are you with us? Ghislaine. No, all right, let's go back to chat. So again, if you've got questions, just pop them in. Let me see if there's any here that I've missed. All right, now's a good time if you want to jump on Google Hangouts and ask a question. Now's a good time to do that too. Okay. I'm actually going to, I know I've got Ghislaine on the line, and he sent me a question by email, so I'm going to read that out and address that. Actually, I'll do that in a sec. Yusuf, you just put a really good question into the comments, which is, how can I convince prospects to buy your service and products when they don't think they need it? And the question, I think the answer is find another product. So if people are telling you we don't need this, you're not going to be able to sell it to them. So find something else, okay? Because you're just going to be pushing an uphill barrow, you know, barrow uphill. It's going to be really hard, and you might as well spend your time actually talking to those people and say, what is it that you need? What are the problems that you have? And then find a way to solve that for them. And then you can go back to them and say, do you want this? And they'll go, yes, amazing. Where do we sign? So if people are telling you they don't need your product, then they don't need it and they're not going to buy it. And unfortunate as that is, and I know that's really hard to hear, because, you know, when we develop something, we put so much time and energy into it, and we get really invested into it. But if they don't want to buy it, they're not going to buy it. So it's time for us to go, you know, generally it's time for us to go, I'm either too early with this idea, or you know, they okay, Yusuf's telling me they really need it. if they really need it, if they don't see that, they're still not going to buy it, unfortunately. So you can either try to educate them, which is can be a long process and can be expensive, or you what I would be doing is I would be going back to them with an earlier question. So instead of going to talk to people about the product, go and talk to them about their problems. Say, what's your biggest frustration in this industry? What's your biggest frustration around whatever it is that your product's about? And don't even talk about your product, just listen to what their frustrations are. And two things will come out of that. Either they will confirm what you're thinking, and they'll give you the words to use in your marketing. So they'll talk about their frustration in a really particular way, and the words they use, you can take those and use them in the marketing, and they will resonate with other people. Okay, so that's one result that would happen from talking to them about the problems. Or the second result is that they would they'll actually uncover a new problem for you, and you can pivot what you're doing and solve a real problem for them. So that's what I would recommend. Go back, talk to your potential customers about their problems, and then from that you'll find either, yes, they need this, but this is how I need to talk about it to them, or actually, no, they don't need this, but here's a problem that I can fix for them and make some money doing it. Okay, Ghislaine, your question. And if anyone else wants to jump on Hangouts and ask a question, now's your chance. Or type a question into the comments box. But what Ghislaine has sent me over email, he says this, so I'm just going to read his words. He says, I'm currently working on an idea and thinking about bringing it to life. Right now I have a full-time job. I'm looking for a development team that can help me build the MVP. I need to start talking to key players on the domain I want to address. The only obstacle is to find a good development company that can build the MVP at a reasonable price. He lives in Switzerland. It's very expensive to have it done there, so he needs to look for other ways to do it. He says, I was thinking about outsourcing, but the problem is to find a great outsourcing company that can handle the project well at an affordable price. Okay, there's lots in there, so so let's tackle that one. So first of all, good on you for actually trying to do something when you have a full-time job, because that's, I mean, probably all of us know what that feels like. It's huge, right? So whether your job is, you know, working for someone else, whether you're looking after kids full-time and starting a business, doing two things is huge. And one of the hardest things is actually splitting your mind between the two and finding the energy to do everything. So good on you. And I think that's a good way to go. I think it's good to get the initial development out of the way and prove the idea before you burn your bridges and quit your job. If you can do that, I think that's a really good way to go. Right, what you haven't told me, Ghislaine, is whether you have done your idea validation process. So you're talking about developing your MVP, which stands for minimum viable product. But can you, I know we can't hear you for some reason, but can you pop in the chat whether you've done that? So okay, so he's saying he's talked to people in the domain and that they recognise the need for the problem, which is the need for the solution, I'm sure you mean, which is great. So what I would do is like we were talking with Kristen and Yusuf, make sure that you've really done that solid research about the problem and the solution, and you've validated that, and that's what they want. And if they're saying that's what they want, there's a few ways you can go about this. And again, I'm going to talk about this generally because I don't know what your business is, and I don't know what industry you're in or your personal situation. So I'll give you some guidelines, and you can sort out what really applies to you. So what he's telling me in the chat here is that he needs to do a prototype and get their feedback on it. So there's a couple of ways you can go. I'm assuming this is sounds like this is a software product. So there's a couple of things. You can build the front end and do the back end manually, right? If that's appropriate for your kind of idea. So there's some kind of ideas where you're taking in data from people and then processing it in some way and then giving them a result. So or like a matchmaking service would be a similar thing, right? So people come in, you can match them, you can take the data, build the front end online, take the data, do the matching manually in the back end, and then spit out the results manually to them. And if you're getting an uptake in customers, then you build the back end in. So that's one way to go. Second way is to talk to the people and find out what is the absolute must-have feature that they need. And you've probably got your big picture. You've thought about this, and you know what this application is going to be like when it's finished. So you've probably got all these ideas about this feature and that feature. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. So what you need to do is forget all of that, or not forget it, but put it to one side and think about what's the next step, and ask your potential customers what's the one or two features that you absolutely need, and just build those. So what you're looking to do is to how do you cut this down to an absolute minimum until you've got sales, and until you've really tested it in the market and you've got some revenue coming in that people need, that's proving that people need and want your product and will pay for it as well. Okay, so in terms of development, a lot of development's being outsourced these days. So it's definitely possible to do it. It's definitely possible to not have that done in Switzerland, but to have it done, to outsource it. And that depends a little bit on your skills. So if you have IT skills, then you can scope it, you can get a quote, and you can monitor the development of that, which is a good way to go. So you scope it and you project manage it essentially, and you get other people to develop it. If you don't have those skills, you might hire someone to do that for you and outsource the development. So you might or take on a co-founder that can do that and outsource the development. So it's definitely possible to do. You want to do your research before you outsource, because there's lots of people that have done it well and it's worked for them, and there's also horror stories. So you want to do your research to make sure you do that the right way. Have I answered that for you? I can hear typing. I think there's an answer coming. Okay. You're welcome. All right. So there's another question in the chat here. And we might make this our last one, I think, unless anyone else has got a burning question. Okay, so the question is that someone has had a recommendation from marketers to do further market research, which is in-depth interviews with premium market at $1,000 per interview, with 12 to 15 interviews recommended. That will take 15 grand out of my startup budget, which I'll have to take from my e-commerce website development or from my marketing budget. And she's uncertain if these costs will verify what we want to learn, such as buyer motivations, media they consume, price points, etc. What do you think? What I think is you should be talking to those people yourself. So don't pay people $1,000 per interview to do it for you. You need to do it. And the reason for that is that it's only by actually being there and eyeballing those people that you'll actually really understand them and understand the problems, and that you'll get the fine distinctions you need to build a really good product that really works for them. So I wouldn't be paying people $1,000 an interview. I'd go and do it yourself. You could pay someone to set up the interviews for you, but I wouldn't be paying a market research firm to do that, because they'll charge you through the nose. Find someone on Odesk or Elance to set those up for you, someone that's got a background in sales. Or do it yourself, really, because it's going to be developing contacts in the market for you, which is going to be invaluable when you come to sell it. So I hope that answers that question. I would do that myself. I would not spend $1,000 per interview. I can't see the value in paying for that, and I see a lot more value in doing it yourself and making those contacts and getting those distinctions yourself. And what's a good number of potential customers to talk to validate your idea? It depends on the idea. So if it's a consumer idea, you might need to talk to hundreds, or up to 100. If it's an enterprise idea and you only need a couple of customers, and then you talk to 5 people and they're all very happy, great, that's all you need to do. So have a think about, really, there's a lot of advice out there, but you really need to work out what works for you and your business. And it really comes down to, what do I need to know to be confident that this is going to work? So treat your business like an experiment. And work out, what's the next hypothesis that I need to prove, and that's what I would recommend that you do. And what would constitute proof for me? And that will be different for every business. Okay, any other cool last-minute questions? Right, well, it's been so great to talk to you, and I'm sorry we couldn't get more on Google Hangouts. If you had a problem, just email me and tell me what was going on, and then hopefully we can fix that for next time. But I really enjoyed being here. Thank you so much for your time. I feel very honoured that you want to join me and listen in. If you've got any questions following up from this, please feel free to email, and hopefully we'll if you found this valuable, we'll do this again. And thank you so much. So wherever you are in the world, whether you're in Australia and you've got the rest of the day before you, or you're on the other side of the world and it's getting towards bedtime, go well, and we will see you next time. Thank you.